Hey everyone, before we get started in this podcast, I just wanted to say that after we filmed and recorded the podcast, LSS has announced a map policy update that does address some of the things that we talked about in the podcast before they announced it. And so I just wanted to make sure you knew about that. I will go ahead and link that in the YouTube comment section as well as the description of the podcast. We do talk about map pricing a bit in this episode, but that is not the focus of the episode. Hope you enjoy the content. Well, welcome back, everyone, to May the Zoo Be With You, a Flesh and Blood podcast. My name's Louie. I'm from KitchenTableTCG. I'm joined by Mitch from Midtown Merchant and George from Compete Sports. What's going on, fellas?
What's up, Louie?
Howdy doody.
It's an honor to be on your podcast.
We all have our mics. We all have our mics this week.
I know. Like, audio is good this week. We're moving along in the world. You know, it's great. George, what are we talking about today? What are the topics?
First, I got to make something clear.
Oh gosh, here we go.
Two things. First, I'm sick, so I can only carry this podcast 90% of the way. My back will give out at the full 100.
It was 95% before we started, so it's going down rapidly.
Man, the tea is healthy.
That's good. Now, in further clarification, George does not have COVID.
No,
he has been tested.
And so we are safe because we are within 10 feet of him.
Well, you're not invincible, George. No one.
Well, I am invincible, but not apparently. Secondly, and more importantly, I want to make clear that although Louie and I yarb each other ferociously in the Facebooks and the Discords, I do trust his spreadsheets, and I think you should too. He does not actually just make up the data. He spends about roughly 20 trillion hours a week getting the data and then putting it on the sheets. So
everybody thinks I asked you to say this right now. Literally everyone listening to this thinks
Louie, yes. Can you please put the gun down? Can you put the gun down, Louie?
No, but I do think it's funny that people think we don't like each other. I see that all the time.
Yeah, that's kind of, I mean, we're best friends and you and Louie are a rival. It's fine.
That's true.
George. And,
that's true.
But deep down even in our group chat, I'm like, George, you need to be nice. He's like, dude, this is just how we do. And I'm like,
nothing is funnier than Mitch telling me to be nice to Louie because it makes me dislike both Mitch and Louie.
It's awesome.
Note that I don't say be kind. I say be nice.
Yeah. You're like, you need to listen, it's not Louie's fault that James White hates him and he can never pull a library. That's not Louie's fault. That's on James White. I'll be honest.
There we go. All right. What is our actual topic?
That's actually a perfect segue. It's a perfect segue. What is James White's fault and what is not, right?
Yeah. Let's talk about Louie's simping video here.
All right. So our first topic is going to be LSS. What can they actually control? I did a video this week. Kind of I told you guys, well, it's, who knows when we're posting this, well, I told you two that it was my LSS apology video. I did not label that on the channel as my LSS apology video. But it was like a kind of taking a step back to say maybe there are some other contributing factors to the current issues that we see. And so we kind of said, well, okay, let's have a discussion here because we've had some discussions amongst ourselves. So what can LSS actually control is kind of this topic today, right?
And I think the underlying question is what are they responsible for? What can we hold them responsible for? Is that the underlying thing as well? So by identifying what they can control, we're also identifying who's to blame almost.
I think
I don't know if that's too negative, but
yeah, I think that Louie, what you were trying to get at, and Louie, correct me if I'm wrong, even though I never am with you, especially. You were basically saying LSS is responsible for game design. The design is fine. LSS is not going to go to Cardamonde with scissors and cut the cards. It's not fair to expect them to do so.
Essentially, let's check our attitudes and make sure that we are looking at the whole thing and not just one instance, which is like card quality, which is a big thing in our community that we've been upset about. But also understanding that probably LSS is aware of the problem and trying to fix the problem, but the communication from Cardamonde to LSS might not be as spot on, as generous as we think it should be, and there might be underlying factors that are like, what if Card Monday was just like, okay, well, we can print the cards again, but it's going to take another 6 months. And then it's like, okay, do we all really want LSS to delay? I mean, I don't know how long it would be, but like, do we all want LSS to delay the set another 3 months, or do we just want the cards now?
So nothing is funnier to me than when people come up to me and say, why don't you just yell at distributors for not doing X to you? I have to inform them that stores have no power against distributors. Stores, I don't get, I have no power. I'm a very large customer, I think. I do 7 figures with both distributors. I have no power, and I'm a big account. I suspect that if LSS went to Card Monday and said, like, I need X, they would say, okay, and thank you. Like, I'm not doing anything. You need me way more than I need you.
Meaning Card Monday. LSS needs Card Monday way more than Card Monday needs LSS.
If Card Monday says to LSS, it's been real and it's been fun, but it ain't been real fun,
right?
James White has to call MetaZoo Mike to ask for who his printer is.
Which cards are nice.
The cards are nice. Like, maybe he should. I don't know. But Card Monday has all the power in that relationship. Would be my guess. I have no insider information on that. But like, I can't imagine you looking at Pokemon printing, Magic the Gathering printing, Topps printing, Panini printing, and going, geez, I need LSS printing to really make my year. That would surprise me.
Maybe in 10 years, but we are not there yet.
We're not there yet. Well, and you don't have a card game without, so you don't have a few things. You don't have a card game without cards, right? So they need a printer. They then have special printing techniques, cold foiling. Who's able to do that? What sort of printer is able to accomplish that printing technique? Somebody who has a graphic design background in traditional print design, that's not a standard printing technique. Right. That's something that Cardamundi has, I would imagine, sampled and dialed in, and not every printer or mass printing press can do that process.
Well, we know that they've mastered. We know that from Rudy from Alpha Investments video too, where he had all the different,
that was sweet,
so like it was really cool. They have worked with Card Monday to make this set. So like,
correct.
You're right. Card Monday is super valuable.
Yeah. I mean, it's what adds value to the collectible market, right? It's what it's the largest distinguishing factor between first edition and limited. Yeah. If you're asked 9 out of 10 times, why am I going to buy a first edition product? It's for the cold foils and maybe the extended arts for Monarch. Right. But, I mean, it's hard. I mean, who do you go to whenever you're displeased? I mean, I'm thankful that we're in the States. If I'm displeased with my distributor, I could go all in on another distributor. Who do you do that from a printer standpoint, right?
Right.
You don't really have, you don't have leverage.
So then, go ahead, George.
I think we all agree that there could be extenuating circumstances that mean the card quality does not fall exclusively or maybe even mainly on LSS.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
So let me tell you that that's not my beef. I think that is a beef I have. But I think it's also fair to say that LSS has a significant amount of power over distributors. They can tell a distributor, if you're naughty, I'm going to cut your allocations and give it to the other one. Or I'm going to bring in a third one. Or I'm going to go direct to stores. Or I'm going to go do any of these other things that will make your life harder.
Yeah.
Right.
So when a distributor goes up by 18% and LSS does nothing about that, it's hard for me to blame anybody but LSS and that distributor for that.
Sure, but how long has distribution been up by 18%?
A month and a half now?
A month and a half. So my question is like, my perspective in my video was like, hey, what if you take a step back? Does it take more than a month and a half to work out a new contract, to agree with another distributor, or to work out, like, is it as easy as calling Mr. Big Shot? I'm not Mr. Big Shot and saying, look, you guys screwed up. You have to lower your prices, and like next week they lower the prices. I don't think distribution costs ever go down. Like that's the other side of this.
From my understanding, went up $2 a box. That's just my understanding. I could be dead wrong. That is the cost that distribution paid more per box starting with Monarch.
Great.
That's just my understanding. Could be dead wrong. I don't think I am, though. And this is somewhat borne out by the fact that the one distributor rose their prices by roughly that price. The other one went up 700% of that price.
Right. Which is an issue.
Well, I mean, like, listen, let me go. So I think the LSS has power there. LSS certainly has power over map.
Right.
Yes. They have leverage.
And like, I tend to side with Louis on this, that I think they're going to take that seriously, and maybe we need to give them some time for that. But like, there are major retailers online who have not honored map.
Right.
And like, I think that is something that LSS has very serious control over.
So they don't have necessary control over a lot of the printing stuff, but they have control over how they handle distribution. They have control over how they handle map. But I do think that it could potentially take longer than, like, for us, we react in a day. like your distribution cost goes up 18% and you react in one day. And like, maybe it's just like, okay, we can react, but we always have to have some grace on the side of like, hey, LSS, this is what we see. So let's see the difference.
Right.
And I also think it's important to note that like, we are three, like, we all have accounts. We are three stores. We're three idiots, but we're also like three people who have stores. But this, and I don't want to get away from this. Like, this is affecting not just stores, but players. And the card prices and the way that you have availability to play the game.
I'm not selling boxes online anymore. Like, that ship has largely sailed. I was probably if not the third largest store, probably certainly a top 5 large online seller for Flesh and Blood. I don't think that will continue in the future for me.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with the dip. I sold boxes online when when they were $80 everywhere. That has nothing to do with the dip.
And that's frustrating to me because you were a store that was selling boxes for $80 online when boxes were selling for $105 online.
Right.
When I remember because I was just starting on YouTube, I remember it was like December last year and boxes were $150. And I was like, well, I can't afford this anymore. So that's when I got in touch with Mitch to start doing like, hey, Mitch, do you want to sponsor the channel? Because I need, and he never sold me boxes, but he would like, help me find people to get boxes. And I was just like new in the community. And that's how I got connected to George.
That's how we all three got
like,
connected.
So like, it's frustrating to me that the lack of a map enforcement, and again, like, maybe map enforcement is coming, and I really think it is. I really think this is a good test. Like, we're starting to see, is this map experience where like map ends and whatever it is it working? And like, is it, if we're seeing $60 WTR boxes, is that working? My
issue isn't map. The reason I'm selling nothing online is not map, it's distribution.
Okay.
Because here's the problem: if a distributor is able and willing to raise the price $18 in 3 weeks or 2 weeks, why do I not think he'll do it again?
And you mean percent when you say $18?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
18%.
Medicine's kicking in.
So like, if I can't trust as a store what I'm going to pay for the next box, because mind, they gave me 24 business, less than that. They gave me 12 business hour notice.
Oh yeah.
That my cost had gone up. I
didn't find out until I actually
on a very high 5-figure sale.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I didn't figure out until I actually got charged.
Right.
It's like, hey, what changed here? Or why is the bill so high? I was expecting it to be
this would be like, listeners, everyone who's listening, this would be like you have purchased on eBay a box and you've said that you're in to buy a case of Monarch First Edition on eBay. And you've agreed, and that's the price that you've signed up to pay. And then before they ship, they say, hey, no, you have to pay 18% more before we'll ship you the product that you've also, in some cases, you've also already pre-sold to customers. Correct. And this is why I don't do pre-orders until I have the product. But like, George,
you couldn't do pre-orders until recently, but
well, I mean, in the future,
until LSS and the distributor, until they can give me some confidence of what I'm going to pay per box with some regularity, I'm not going in heavy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I ordered 5,000. I think I ordered 5,000 boxes of Monarch Unlimited. I didn't get that many. That's fine. But like, I'm not going to order 5,000 of Crucible if I don't know what my price is going to be. How can I do that? How can I order 5,000 boxes of Crucible Unlimited when knowing that the price could be literally 20% higher?
Yeah.
Right.
Than what I just paid.
And
I have customers who are telling me, George, I can buy boxes for $65 online.
Exactly. And that's the key.
I'm not willing to do that. I'm sorry. I love you all. I love the community. I think I like to think I'm a decent part of the flesh and blood community. I like everybody in it but Louie. I think it's
lasted the niceness lasted 13 minutes.
It lasted like 20 minutes. That's longer than I thought it was gonna last, I'll be honest. I mean, like, but like I don't think it's fair to ask me to shell out $200,000 for product with no chance, with like a hope and prayer that it'll get returned.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that. I don't do it. I don't do it with Magic. I don't do that with Pokemon. Why should I be expected to do that with a newer game? And like this to me is something that like I know I listen, I'll be very clear with this. I have told this to LSS. My days as a major online seller of Flesh and Blood are numbered. And it's because of distribution.
Yeah. And I want to clarify for you, because I've had this conversation with you, it's not a threat or ultimatum or anything like that. It is simply a fact of numbers where like
look at my website. Nothing for sale.
And it's a decision based upon risk versus reward of like you can get less boxes and support your store and in-store play. And the problem again that I want to come back to, because I don't want people to miss this, like the three of us are very player focused in the community. And I know I'm like pumping ourselves, but like Mitch, you do singles, you try to beat the price on most of the stuff. George, like I can't say this enough. Like when boxes were $150, you were the person who was not upcharging the box prices. Yep. And like that to me is what matters, because I do believe that eventually WTR will, right now we're in this place where like every store is getting a million product, Chilling Reigns, Modern Horizons. We had a restock on Unlimited. So like everyone has an affinity of product. And eventually that will dry up. Like we're seeing in the market, we're going to talk about next in a couple minutes, like players versus collector market right now. And the player market is going crazy. So eventually those box prices from these stores that are charging, whatever, are going to dry up. And then it's like, okay, now boxes are 120 and no longer is Compete Sports available to help out those new players who get involved. And that's what's frustrating to me. But let's go back to the question though. Let's go back to the question. What can LSS control in this scenario, and what could they do to control that?
And LSS can do two things in my view to immediately remedy this. Three things. First, you can publicly state, I'll say it. Mitch said it last month. Game Nerds very publicly didn't do map for Monarch Unlimited.
I think it was $70 for their boxes or something.
You can go to them and say, you can put something out, and be like, Game Nerds is no longer allowed to sell our product. It's been real, it's been fun, but it ain't been real fun. And like you have to honor our map. That's the listen, like that's the deal, right? Like I'm not allowed to sell Warhammer in certain ways due to my contract with Warhammer. If I break it, I don't get to carry the product.
Yeah.
Well, that's simple. Do you remember the Armory kit? They came out with an Armory kit materials policy, and you can go to retailers and go to the retailer news to find it. And there were issues of stores selling Armory kits, right? And they came up with essentially a 3-strike system. Minor breach, which is a written warning, right? No different than like hey, stop doing this.
Yep.
Major breach is a 1-month suspension from OP programs and supply of OP materials.
Yep.
This could be the same as access to distribution, or 1-month suspension from ordering boxes, or whatever. I don't know what's going to be most. This is the hard thing for them. What do? You want to impact the store, have a consequence, but you don't want to negatively impact the player base, right? So this is where it gets sticky with map pricing. What do you do, right?
So here's the
prevent stores from getting boxes, because that means that then players don't get access to boxes, which means it could negatively hurt the player base. Let me finish off this though. So they have a minor breach, major breach, and then a sustained breach, which is a termination of supply. Which we can all see that the last one will be probably a solution that comes with map pricing if it's consistent, right? If you are consistently breaching this policy, I could see the termination of access to product. What do they do for the major breach, though, to where it's a balance between, hey, this is a negative impact to my store, but we're not going to hurt the player base while doing it? I mean, is it a termination or is it a suspension of product for X period of time?
So I mean, like, I think this is where you have to. I think LSS needs to decide how much they're going to help local game stores. It is not fair for a local game store to be asked to sell Monarch Unlimited at $65 a box with what we pay.
For sure.
It's not worth. I mean, like, I'll tell you this. Like, I've talked to several stores now who were signed up to start with Crucible Unlimited, and they've canceled. And it's very simple. Like, they're like, wait, you're telling me this game is amazing and it's worth it. I've helped them find local players to help run events. I've helped them find distributors. I've helped them find boxes. I've sent them free boxes out of my own pocket.
Right.
I've done this with a bunch of
stores. Free cards in store.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also like, I have stores reaching out like, hey, I need bulk to start, my local community.
Right. But then they turn around and say, like, I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm not going to make that much a box. I make more in Magic. I make more in Pokemon.
Right. And even if it's not more, it's close to or as much. And so the incentive to start a new game just isn't there.
Like George, you want me to, like, you think it's smart to hire somebody to train people to play the game? You want me, like, there's playmat issues. Like, there's all these things that I have to take care of that I don't have to do with Magic.
Right.
I do think it's important to note that, like, this is the first time that we have run into this problem, right? Like, we were not seeing this happen when WTR Unlimited came out. We were not seeing this happen, and so I think this is where it goes back to this question of, like, is this just a matter of, like, I agree, Mitch. I want to go back to your statement, like, with the Armory kit, like, supply stuff. They did a great job of handling that issue.
Yeah,
it was handled very quickly. It was handled in a completely, like, visible way for the whole community to see. It wasn't in some, like, retailer group or whatever. It was an article on the main website, and it was handled very quickly and effectively. I haven't seen anybody selling promos. Like, I just haven't seen that. Like, even like on eBay,
and if they don't sell them very long.
Yeah, even like on eBay, I remember like. One time I bought a KO, and the seller had 4 of them available. So it was, like, so obvious that it was, like, a store, right? Like, they had the exact number, and, like, you don't see that anymore. And, like, that's great. They solved that problem. And it was as easy as saying, look, if we catch you breaking it, here's the issues.
Right.
And so I think that's what needs to happen with MAP. I honestly wonder, and I don't want to get into conjecture here, but I honestly wonder if LSS isn't taking their time because they are evaluating, like, what should we do with the MAP policy? Correct me if I'm wrong, and you guys have been around longer, but the MAP policy is a new thing for TCG. No,
it's not a new thing for TCGs. It's newer for Flesh and Blood, though. So when Alpha, It didn't. Map pricing did not come out until
came out with Alpha.
Unlimited.
Nope. Came out.
I don't think it matters. My question is, the map pricing that ends, is that normal for TCGs and stuff? Oh, okay. I'm wrong then.
I will just go into, if you go to the I have to have a be right moment. If you go to WTR and you look at the release, there's nothing mentioning map pricing. For WTR.
I will tell you that when I got Alpha, I signed a contract that said map.
All right.
No, that could be.
You can see it on every single release.
We're in the weeds.
I know.
We're in the weeds.
I just
bring it back. It's not that big of a deal. You guys.
Arcane Rising for sure had it. We'll fight later.
Team Mitch, Team George. Who's on which team? Put in the comments.
I'm nicer, so that usually gets me some points. But nice guys never win, right? Yeah. Well, we can argue that later.
Okay, so I'm wrong about that, but maybe the question is, how do we go about enforcing MAP? Because I know, like, on TCG,
but hold on, Louis. I think you need to go back a step. I think that's the wrong question. Obviously, the reason that these other boxes can get away with having a timed map is because you can order those boxes. Okay. Magic does not have map, but I can call. But let's say they did. Let's say for 4 months, it's $100 a box, whatever it is. I can call my distributor at any time and go get booster boxes of Magic the Gathering. Right. I can call my distributor today and get Ikoria. I don't know. Certainly Zendikar. Probably not Throne anymore. Maybe not even maybe not Ikoria, but I mean, certainly you can get the last 3 or 4 sets. You can get, probably Ikoria is the last set you probably won't be able to get. So there's 5 or 6 sets you'll be able to get.
Sure.
That has not been true with Flesh and Blood from its inception.
Right.
From
its inception, right? You were able to get as many boxes of alpha as you wanted, but it wasn't until it started.
If not of Unlimited. I mean,
since Unlimited came in, it was always under.
Right. I ordered 500 weeks Unlimited. I got roughly that when it first came out, but that's it. I couldn't call my distributor the next day and say, "Hey, man, I sold my 300. I sold 300 boxes of Wraith. Can you get me another 200 boxes?"
Yeah,
they're out.
That was the same way with Pokemon, though, right? Chilling Reigns just came out. Could you call today and get more Chilling Reigns? Now I know it's a unique era.
I mean, here's the trick: is
like Vivid Voltage.
The trick is you can to some degree. Here's what I would tell you is when the Welcome to Wraith Unlimited first run came out and they sold out, you could have held a gun to my head. I was not getting another box of Unlimited.
Sure.
If you held a gun to my head today, I can get you a few cases of Chilling Reigns.
I got you. I mean, I can't get that. But George is more important than me. So
always. Remember that comment for Team George. He said it himself.
So George, explain to us how that affects your view of map pricing.
Doesn't matter if I can't get the product. If map lasts for 6 months and there's no boxes for sale for 6 months.
I hear what you're saying.
It doesn't matter what map is. Map could be $1 trillion. It could be $2. There's no boxes for sale. I can't get them.
They set the policy for 12 months though. The issue is they weren't able to print enough in 12 months for it to matter.
It doesn't matter. Right? I mean, they got to print more boxes. None of this matters unless they print boxes.
Well, it matters now. Right. Unfortunately, it's for sets where map pricing has expired. But WTR and ARC were intangible objects, and I'm talking about Unlimited, for the last 9 months. And then I have my distributor call one day and says, "Hey, I have loads of boxes for you." And I remembered, oh shoot, I requested, George, Louis, I was talking to this last night. I have lots of boxes to go through now because I had requested loads of boxes last fall with the hopes of, I could have requested 500 boxes and gotten 90 because of the size of my account. But I requested hundreds of boxes and now they're like, "Hey, here you go." I'm like, okay. So let's imagine you're a store, you're just getting started. You're playing the distribution game where you request more boxes than what you can afford with hopes of getting the exact number that you want, right? They played that game. This is happening with Pokemon, by the way. This is Pokemon.
Dangerous game that we all play.
Yeah. And it's probably, and it's because the distribution model is broken. We don't have to get into that. Team Covenant actually covers this quite well. They have their podcast actually went into the depths of this. A lot of game stores are aware of it. Huh?
They're not a competitor.
We love Team Covenant. We don't have competitors. George, why do you always think
my LGS?
Why do you always think there's competition? This is zero competition.
Because he's a capitalist at the heart. Come on.
This is
in my soul.
He's all about the hustle. All I'm trying to say is distribution model's broken. So I requested loads of boxes. I'm a new store. I requested loads of boxes. I want to get my game store started up. I get, a plethora of boxes when I first get started. That back order, if you don't cancel it, stays there.
Yeah.
So now we just got a huge shipment in of boxes and stores are like, "Oh shoot. There's actually 2 things happening. And George, you and I talked about this. We're hypothesizing that there are stores that are carrying Magic and Pokemon trying to increase their spend by carrying Flesh and Blood.
Yep.
So they're, this again, playing in the distribution model. I spend more, I get more, right? So they're trying to spend more. So they added some boxes in on back order. And now they're like, "Oh shoot, I just got to blow through this. I don't need to support the game. I just need to blow through and sell, break even, or maybe even lose some. So that way, then the next set comes out for MTG or Pokemon, I can capitalize on that I can monetize more boxes." On the flip side, oh shoot, I got a ton of boxes. I'm just a tiny little game store. I got to sell these boxes ASAP or else I'm going to be struggling next month, right? Like my bill's coming up. I got to pay my credit card bill. I got to pay that off. So I think those are the 2 core things where people are trying to cut under others. Is there a third one?
The third is trying to increase your allocation for first edition. In other words, the more Unlimited that you buy and pick up, the more first edition. So here's a question then. is that, should they be doing that? And can LSS control that? Like, can LSS control the way that distribution does allocation? And should the allocation be based upon what, like a player base, like a number that is run through your gem every month or something like that?
Yeah.
Is there a way that is a way to get the boxes into the hands of people who are actually supporting the game and not just trying to increase their spend so that they can buy more of another product?
I think that this is where LSS is in a tough spot, because I think what Mitch is saying is exactly right. They're a victim to a bad.
And I'm only right because I said exactly what George told me in a call this week.
Bingo.
So
that's what you do it. Team Mitch, Team George, I'm right. Now aligned. Battle over. No longer leave the comments. We're now aligned. Sorry, Louis, you're out. So
he's got his Huel over there, though. He's getting woke over there with his Huel.
I'm fine with that.
Getting swole.
I couldn't get a sponsor for the podcast, so I just decided I'll just keep drinking.
Well, good thing you got your blur going
until they
you're back home, boy.
I mean, I think LSS is a victim of the bad distribution in the United States, but I also would like to say, like, listen, thank God we're not in Canada. Thank God we're not in Europe where they have monopolies.
We have monopolies, right? Yeah, you have one distributor. Oh,
imagine brutal bad one. So, like, you know,
there was discussions of that too.
I think what needs, you know, and this is where LSS has to kind of figure out, like, listen, I'll do I want to say this? Oh,
don't say it.
Do you need me to bleep you out? I got my bleep button ready.
LSS, I think, has the ability to bring some stores direct.
Oh, sorry.
I think LSS has the ability to bring some stores direct.
Yeah.
I don't know why Rudy, Channel Fireball, SCG, and, you know, I think Team Covenant gets a pass, frankly. They've been around from the get-go. I'm cool with them.
Yeah.
Even
Rudy's
though they're
Covenant bet on it.
Rudy has also been around since the get-go. I mean,
no, he didn't come around until Unlimited.
No, that's not true.
He was a year after.
He was giving out.
He came in Crucible. He came for Crucible, didn't he?
He was doing Alpha Box. What are you doing, Mitch? Have you been around at all?
He was doing Alpha Boxes, but it was around Crucible that I remember hearing him the most. It was actually leading up to Crucible, and I'm not trying to throw Alpha investments underneath. So Rudy, hear me out. But what I'm saying though is
you're wrong.
You're wrong. No, I'm gonna look it up right now. I was a patron.
He did Alpha in our boxes.
I didn't buy the boxes. I was a patron. I did not buy the boxes.
I'm aware he did Alpha in our boxes, but it was leading into Crucible that he was supporting the game.
Oh, well, I don't know. I don't think that's true, but, like, I don't think that matters. So, like, anyway, like, here's my point.
It's a year ago from last year.
Like, here's my
continue
from this time.
I think LSS needs to either find a new distributor and add them onto the group, or they need to start bringing bigger stores direct. And I think that would actually solve a lot of their problems. Right? I mean, like, I have no problem sharing that I got 4 figures of Monarch First boxes. Low, very low, very low first, very low 4.
Yeah, but
hold on 1 second. If I'm out of distribution, if LSS sells to me direct, those certain number of boxes can now go to other stores across the country.
Sure.
And now they have more first edition boxes. I think that they need to do that. I think, you know, or they just need to say, like, listen, distribution sucks and it's not my fault and y'all got to fight it out. And listen, like, I've been a part of this, right? Like, you guys know this. I have basically gone from 70% ordering from one distributor to now they're my backup. Now I do 5% with them, 10% with them. I've moved the vast majority of my orders to the other distributor because I'm like, I'm not going to deal with it.
Right.
You're not going to charge me.
We were talking about that. There are large stores or large accounts moving over as the other distributor as their main account.
I mean, like, listen, I'm not alone.
For Flesh and Blood specifically.
I know of 2 other stores that both got, I think one got very high 3 figures of Monarch First, and the other got very low 4. They both switched distributors in the last 30 days. And, like, this is going to be another problem that LSS has to deal with. Is, like, what happens when the distributor, when the orders completely flip? When one distributor, I guess, my curiosity, a lot more orders, and now the other one does.
Why? We don't have to get really into the nitty-gritty of this, would LSS, when they first agreed to work with distributors, agree to a price range that they can charge for boxes?
And that's what I was going to say next too. Is like,
is there a contractual obligation?
I think there's rules in the U.S. that prevent.
There's laws like this has always been my fight. Is that you're only allowed in America to have a minimum advertised price because it's not a retail trust.
Yeah.
Now, what I think is fair to say is like, what you can say is, I want my product to be in this price range. I can pick this is what Mike did for MetaZoo. He said, if I see you selling over MSRP, that's fine. That's your right. But it's also my right to figure out who I want to sell and not sell my product.
Correct.
And I'm going to keep a naughty list. And so, like, I think it is fair to say to the one distributor, I see what you've done. You're on my naughty list.
Yeah.
You're on my naughty list.
The problem is, does that not affect stores then from that distributor? Distributor?
Like, it does.
Because and that's the problem. Again,
it's coming with both distributors now. Everybody's with both.
Yeah, but I've been working with my local game store before I started my own game store. I've been working with my local game store in another town, and like one distributor is like, let's call it 100 boxes. The other distributor it's like 4. So like if they have to go to the other distributor, it's like cuts out the entire supply chain for the store. I mean, they're between a rock and a hard place. They have to just order from that distributor, or they have to restart at 0, and that affects the customer base.
Right.
Again, which is the heart behind this conversation. I know we're talking about a lot of store stuff, and I'm sure some stores are really enjoying this, but like it affects the consumer at the end of the game.
Well, and I think that's kind of what I was bringing up too, is how do you tell a store, first off, there's obviously something that needs to be done with distribution, and we can talk, we've all agreed on that. So I think that's one point. But now that, okay, you have these stores that are trying to stay alive, they bought too much product, or they got too much product that they requested because the distribution model is broken, or they're trying to do it for other reasons. So now they're trying to sell that as quickly as possible to pay their bills, right? You even saw Star City Games on Facebook Marketplace this week, and they didn't go under map pricing, but there was like, hey, we're going to do a flash sale because we are overstocked, right? We got too much of this product.
Stores like I haven't gotten any Arcane. None.
Oh, I know.
No Arcane. And meanwhile,
I'm
big
getting
stores
some this week.
I'm
just now getting some this week. Right. I'm just now getting. So I think this is the other thing too, and we can talk about this. And George has opinions on this. This is kind of like a 1%er problem, right? Like the top 1% of stores are going to get product first, typically, or going to be prioritized. Yeah. And that's not to say, George, you were believing in the game before most stores in America were, because you saw the impact of the game in your local game store. It's not to say that, hey, you just threw a ton of money at the problem and now they're going to give you tons of product. That's not really your story, but that is a story from some other stores of, hey, we have a lot of money to spend. We already have huge spend with you. Let's go ahead and get X thousand of boxes. And it's not to throw Star City Games under it, but they were not as on board as Channel Fireball was early on. Right. They didn't carry it until like the last six until Monarch, wasn't it?
Until Monarch. It was a big news when they carried it. It was big. Right. I think that's fine. I think it's good. Go ahead.
I think my point is, though, is they're just able to throw money at it and get everything that they, or at least close to what they need or want. Meanwhile, Louis over here like, hey, I'm trying to help grow the community and I can't even get one case. So like there has to be balance there. That's a distribution model. I think ultimately, like, how do you impact, or how do you implement consequences for not following a map policy? And the map policy is only in the States, right?
No.
Is it worldwide?
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you implement a map policy and provide consequences for stores without negatively impacting that local game scene that is wanting to support the game? And one could say that I would argue that stores are going to buy more at map or below map, players are going to buy more below map price than they would if it was above map. Would you agree? Like, are you going to be more prone to pick up WTR boxes if they're below
Like,
economics.
I don't think it matters. I think you guys are wrong. I don't think it matters. I think because map pricing will in turn, this was a post I made on Facebook, and I think some people agreed, map pricing will in turn affect value of cards.
I don't disagree with you.
If you keep opening boxes at $60 a box, and then you start getting only $35, $40 worth of it's just not a win for a player.
I totally agree with you. You're brand new to the store, you're not brand new to the store. You're a Magic Gathering player, brand new to the game. Your store has boxes. You don't even know about the map policy. You're like, oh, these are only $68, $69 in the store. That's not too bad. I'll just pick up a box. That lowers the barrier of entry and gets new players in. Is it sustainable? No. Is it short-sighted? Yes. Sure. But in the very short term, in theory, would lower the barrier of entry and get more players in. I don't think it's healthy for the game. I don't think it's healthy for the long term. I think it negatively impacts the game stores. Because once you set that precedent of, okay, I start supporting the game, I'm selling lots of boxes at, $68 a box. Okay, we're out of WTR boxes. You're now selling at 120 or 90 or MSRP. Now the player base is pissed because they're like, well, guys, what the hell? Like, you were just selling these at 60 or 70. Now I got to pay $20 more per box. Oh, well, supply and demand.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just so ebb and flowy. I hate it. I
think it can be less ebb and flowy if it's more dictated by the amount of players that you have, that you're supporting. Not that that's the only factor. Like, I want all stores to start carrying it. I don't want a store to like be like all excited about Flesh and Blood and then they can't get more than 4 boxes because they haven't had any players. I don't want that. But like, I think that stores that are supporting local scene, even like stores that are supporting, like, I'm obviously biased, but I'm a big proponent of like online play continuing, because like in my Discord server, there's a lot of people who have no place to play the game anywhere else. And so like stores that are doing that, like, I'm obviously biased, but like, I think that's a really important aspect to keep people interested in the game, especially coming off of 2020. But I think that when we get back to this question, what can LSS control? I think they can control their communication to the public about map pricing and about what they intend to do to keep that in line. And I think that's important. So I don't know.
Transparency and communication is always, it's something that they're always commended for. I feel like people are like, I really appreciate that LSS you're giving that look, George, but there are a lot of players that feel that LSS does a good job communicating to the player base when they feel it's needed.
I think that I'm going to start over again and say, like, I love LSS, and I think there's a lot of growing pains right now. I think 100%. that their communication was way, way better before Monarch. Infinitely, like, their communication was a strength before Monarch, and now
it's a weakness.
I think it's coming a weakness, which is just a growing pain that I really have to believe that they believe in and that they're figuring out because of how valuable communication was in the past. I think that they will get better at it. Right now, though, I think it needs some work.
It's lacking. Yeah.
George, rebuttal, and then we need to move on to the next topic because it's 42 minutes in, and I'm a little bit bored about the current conversation.
I just went into like 8 circles, which I'm really good at. So,
any rebuttal, George?
No, I think we're all in large agreement. I mean, I think LSS needs to start throwing some weight around. I think, Louis, you're saying let's give them some time to throw their weight around.
And I don't know what they're trying to do. Figure out what they need. Like, because I think
they're underwater right now.
I think once you communicate, it has to be the right communication.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, maybe I'm just thinking, and I've become more frustrated, and I'll be the first to admit that. Like, we've had distribution problems that have made me pretty cranky. I've had to move my skirmish twice. Like, my skirmish is going to be a disaster this weekend, and like, I'm not remarkably thrilled about that because like, I had to cancel. I had to refund everybody their money. Then they were all PO'd at me, and now I have to like reschedule it. And I'm like, oh, I'm already going to a skirmish this weekend. It's just like,
so you're like, I have half as many people attending now.
Yeah, I have like, I'm gonna have like 20 people there, maybe 30 if I'm lucky. And it's just like, man, this should be easier. Like this should be easier.
Right.
I gotta pull a Louis and start simping for players. It's just, it's rough right now, but that's okay. That's okay.
Let me do a quick update before we move on to the next topic. Let me do a quick update on who is right between Mitch and George as to the Rudy kit. So Welcome to Wraith launched on October 11th, 2019. Rudy started his first patron post was March 1st, 2020. I think he did a video before that. So I think that's pretty early in the demand of the game. The first 4 or 5 months is pretty dang early in the game. Yep. So I do want to,
and I still got it. Let the record reflect that.
I want to say
doorstep is better than either of these two clowns at 100%.
And I think
I was going to say he was right, but I'm done.
A quick topic here before we move on to the player versus collector environment, but I do want to say I am for the continued support of people like Rudy who did help propel the game forward. What I'm not for is that competing with LGSs. So I think there's a really quick balance. I think Rudy kits are really great because he does the prices are not bottom, they include promos. I would prefer those promos to start drifting away from the promos that LGSs get in armory kits and those types of things. I almost want it to be a completely different promo. Now, I know other people will disagree with me because they're saying, well, then there's no other way for me to get those promos if I'm not a Rudy patron. But I don't. Let me finish.
That's the second point.
Let me finish. I don't love the Spew Shadow playmat from Channel Fireball. I bought it. I'm all for it. I want it. But I also don't love that if you're a store that is trying to create a local scene, that's one of the key playmats for the armory kit. And it's how much less are your players gonna not want to go play if they can just buy the playmat from Channel Fireball? And so just give them a different playmat that's not in the armory kit. Then it's not competing.
We can give the Midtown Merchant one. We can just throw that in the Channel Fireball. It'll be fine.
All right, George, you want to keep talking about this? I do want to touch on the player and collection. Give a couple minutes on this.
We're trying to be so much more focused this one, guys. Look, Third Time's a Charm is getting so much better.
We're doing great. So I think that, for me, first start with, I think that SCG, Channel Fireball, Rudy, those are all really great resources for first edition, mainly because they keep greedy jerk stores in check.
Yeah.
These stores that were all $700 for Monarch First, they deserve to get checked into the boards. And frankly, John Sasso and others did. They were no, that's stupid. Have some $200 on your face. Mm-hmm. And that I think is good because it keeps bad stores in line. Right.
Yeah. It sets the ceiling in an odd way. I mean, they actually have different objectives, I would say. Right. Go ahead.
I think it's good. I think that's very good.
It's healthy.
Pro
it's
SCG
competition.
Go ahead.
It's competition. It's healthy competition.
Yes. And there are three very different business models between the three of those.
No question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm absolutely good with Rudy, SCG, and Channel Fireball getting a bunch of first edition. God bless them. Have fun.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't understand is why does Channel Fireball get a lot of help to sell unlimited boxes?
Yeah.
That I struggle with. If I want to sell unlimited boxes, I gotta hustle. Right? I'm a part of the community.
You didn't used to.
I have to have events. I have to do these things to say I'm worthy of your dollars.
Right.
And have a playmat.
Right.
Why?
And get one of each box.
Of course.
Have a playmat. Have a playmat that you'd have to go earn from someone else.
Right.
Why? I mean, and this is where, and this is, again, I know I've been cranky over the last couple months, and I apologize for that ish. Maybe it's because I'm dying. Maybe this is the punishment. Worth it.
Your hearts are going with you too, aren't they? We're not going to ever see those things. They'll never see dead late. We'll lose how many of our number of hearts to your gravestone?
God, there's 7 now. So I mean, I think what I don't understand is that if LSS,
someone's going to rob his grave. I'm just realizing we can't tell him that they're going to bury your body because then your grave's just going to be dug up.
You're derailing the conversation.
If LSS wants to tell us that they're in favor of LGSs, and they use the example of, I'm not going to go to Amazon, right? I'm not going to pull a WotC. I'm not going to give Amazon these discounts. Is there really a difference between them giving Amazon a discount and giving Channel Fireball free promos to give with every box they sell? Is there really a difference there? Because, like, listen, I don't think there is.
Well,
I don't think there is.
I think one of the arguments that, this is not an argument from me. I think one of the arguments that's going to happen is, well, players need play mats, and this will help get new players.
Give them to stores.
And this is my point. Everyone else is paying other people to make our play mats. Like, everyone sees that problem and is trying to solve that problem. Like, Mitch has Midtown Merchant play mats at $30. I, like, we're all doing to solve that problem. You've got your
Wall Street play mat still up.
The Wall Street play mat. And like,
this one I had like 10 of them.
That's where I totally agree with you, George. I think that it's just not, it's putting game stores at a place where they can't compete at all.
So, I mean, like, and this is where, like, this is something else they can control, right? This is where I've become a little bit less forgiving, I would say, in the last 30 days. When you tell me, George, I will always be in the corner of the small local game store, why do I see you giving a ton of free stuff to people that are not the small local game store?
Yep.
Right.
Meanwhile, the small local game store has had their price increase 18% from a distributor, and they're getting pummeled at whatever boxes they do get. I have never, since the game got hot, I have never received more than 27% of what I have ordered.
Correct.
I have never hit 30%.
As a smaller store, it's less than that.
Right. Right.
Like 5 to 10%.
Right. So, I mean, like, and this is where, like, I've been less forgiving. I'll be honest with everybody. Because I'm like, why do I see, frankly, my competitors? Yes, I am a capitalist. I'm sorry, Mitch. These microphones aren't free. And these boots are made for walking. Why do I see my competitors getting more boxes at lower prices with free promos? And then they're saying, George, go compete. Go get them, boys.
And additionally, I mean, you can make the argument. Somebody could make the argument, well, George, you get an armory kit that's free and that allows you to support, the store. But
you actually get armory kits, yeah.
You're not allowed to sell those promos as part of your stuff. You're not allowed to give them.
That's the other thing too. Yeah.
Which I'm not a proponent of being able to sell armory kit. I'm not a proponent of being able to sell armory stuff, but I do think, like, we're getting into this world where, like, in order to support your store, you also have to sell product. You can't just have players. You can't just have $10 a week and 15, 20 players. That's not how you get stores excited about, the game. You have to be able to make money. You have to be able to sell products. So, all right. I think we're kind of in agreement on that. Let's move on, because we've talked about a lot of stuff in terms of store stuff. I want to talk about the market. George had a great line. George, you want to say your line about the skull cap and the Monarch?
What do you guys think will be worth more right now? An unlimited skull cap or a box of Monarch First Edition? Spoiler is not what everybody here just said out loud in their head and said it was a stupid question. All right. You can reasonably ask to trade your unlimited skull cap for a box, a sealed booster box of an out of print Monarch First Edition box.
It's not technically out of print.
Oh, stop it.
All right, Team Georgia, make it back on.
Stop it. Yeah, I totally agree.
It is out of print because, but I mean, we don't know if distribution's holding any.
This is not a conversation. Back to the card.
We're not bad today. Mick is naughty today.
Yeah. Okay. Back to the. Yeah, hey, I think it's crazy.
No bleeping out Mitch though. Yeah.
Essentially, I mean, of course, in 10 years, a box
I'm
of
being
Monarch,
antagonist today.
But this is the world that we're in, and that is that players are driving the market right now. I've been talking about this on the channel like crazy. That, like, the game and this is so great. Like, I love it because, like, I think right now the dolphins in our community are swimming good. Like, the dolphins,
I wish I had a dolphin sound effect.
The dolphins who are players and collectors and investors, that, like myself, like, it feels like a really good place because the confidence, I think, in the market is negative from the whales, but from a person who, like, is okay.
I don't think it's negative from the whales.
Okay, sorry. Well, let's ignore that comment.
I think it just feels weird. Yeah, go ahead.
From somebody who's like, if I end up with a tunic alpha tunic in 10 years, and the game is like not worth $1 million. And I still I'm excited to have that card. I don't care about the financial side of it. Like I got an alpha tunic. Like I got one, and like that's freaking awesome. Like I never thought I'd be able to get one because they were $13,000. I never thought I'd be able to buy one. And so like I love that like the players in the middle class, I would say like the whales of, or sorry, the middle class, percenters, the Dolphins are able to swim a little bit right now because the confidence in the game, I think, is at an all-time high in my mind. Yeah. The confidence of playing the game in 10 years in my mind is at an all-time high.
And people actually love Monarch despite
Are we going there?
I mean,
no, we're not going there. I mean, Mick is you should be using that bleed button more on yourself, I think. So like,
I'm actually somebody's got to feel George's shoes because he's not feeling 100%. So I'm just giving a little taste of his own medicine.
When the Lord calls me home, I'll remember that. So like,
have a convo with him for me. Why don't you?
Collectible cards way down. Collectible cards way down.
Player cards.
Cards way up.
I posted this somewhere else. I don't remember where. I'm sorry. When the dip first started to happen, it felt like whales were anxious to me. Like I was fielding a lot of phone calls from people with 7-figure collections, a couple with 8-figure collections that were all like, hey, like, what do you think is happening? What are you hearing on the street? What's going on?
Right.
And I told them, I have no idea. Like, this is a whole new world. Just like, it's too late now anyway, right? You're not selling right now anyway. So just like calm down and shut up.
The dip's already happened. Right.
This
it's kind of like crypto. You're not selling now.
And this is completely reversed now.
Yeah.
I think now it is like the paper hand newbies who are freaking out. And the whales
can't flip in 2 weeks.
Right. And the whales are perfectly at peace. And I will tell you what I have told the fat cats, the Louis of the world, the whales with his eyes.
I am the opposite of a whale.
Eye and tunic.
You have a first edition Eye of Ophidia.
That's fine. Whatever. Whatever.
At least for now. Who knows? You might sell at the bottom.
So
I will never sell.
I told them that this is so good long term, both for the game, most importantly, and for value. It's unbelievable. Like, this is stupid. Like, there's two things that are happening right now. First, we have a ton of new players. Right? The game is getting, like, look at all these pictures of the skirmish events. Like, like, this is crazy. Like, these skirmish events are full. The calling sold out in, like, 10 seconds flat. I mean, like, there's people hungry to play the game. So the player base is very healthy. But you also are adding on a whole new generation, if you will, not generation, but a whole new layer of collectors.
Yep.
So
people are now buying the cards they read about that they thought they had missed out on. They're now buying.
And the paper hands who bought I think right now a lot of the cards you're seeing that are popping up on the market, not all of them. I know there are some collectors who are exiting, but not all.
Not many, man.
Not many, but a lot of my point here is that most of the cards are entering the market are cards that were $10,000 cards that were potentially $15,000 cards, but the person opened it in a booster box for $80,000, didn't need the money at $10,000. Now the market's collapsing, and they're like, "Oh man, I paid $80 for the card. If I can get $4,000 for it, $5,000 for it, I'm going to take it right now because it might keep going down." So that's kind of where the fear. But I think most of the people who bought the card at $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 are not selling at all right now. Those people aren't the sellers.
Here's my overall hypothesis. A lot of these new players came in with Monarch. They have Monarch product. They may have a plethora of Monarch product. I don't know. I mean, you can't really get Monarch from distribution right now, right? Whether it's unlimited or first. You can, but it's not easily obtainable.
No, I mean, it's out there in distribution. You just got to hunt, but yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of new players came in with Monarch, have a good chunk of those cards.
Yeah.
A lot of the meta decks have Arc, WTR, and Crucible cards. And now they are chasing those cards. And a lot of people, we've said like this too. They don't have the cash flow, but they have the ability to trade. They have new code foils, Monarch code foils. They have first edition boxes. And like, I really want that that skull cap. There's not a lot of Arc in the market. Like I just said, I'm just now getting it. Louis doesn't even have it yet. And they're poor guy. You can see his eye roll there too. And the stores that, well, the market's just not flooded with ARC right now. And so, and the market's just now getting flooded with WTR. Last 2 weeks, we've been seeing that. I just think they're just needing access to cards that they don't have access to, right?
Which is a sign that there's more players.
Exactly. They're using the leverage they have. Oh, it's insane. And I don't think a lot of people acknowledge that. They're like, oh, people are leaving the game. I'm like, not really, dude. There are some people that have high-end collections that are players and collectors and are selling some of their collector pieces to buy more stuff for the game.
Maybe it's the cold message. I'll be a little bit more bold here, but I'll say it. That idiotic Facebook post about how I know of some people leaving the game. Then it's like, who are you talking to? Like, let's show me the Facebook listing. Show me what you're talking about. I didn't say a whale was leaving the game. I said some people are leaving the game.
It's FUD. It's FUD, right? They're trying.
I'm not disputing that somebody at some point sold some cards and some people are leaving the game.
It's been happening since the infancy of the game. That's not a new thing.
There are some people who will come to my store. They will try Flesh and Blood and say this isn't for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Try Pokemon.
Right.
I don't. That doesn't. This is probably too complex for you. Go look for the Golden Snorlax. God bless. I'm not saying this is the only good game or the only thing you should play. But this idea that these players are leaving when every bit of evidence that I can see is to the contrary, it's clearly their fantasy that the game goes under. And that's all it is. And here's what I would say to you listeners. Keep in mind that we're three idiots. This is not financial advice. And if it were, you'd be dumb enough to take it. These are just three morons with fancy mics now, all telling you terrible things. But I don't see any serious evidence of players leaving the game. I see a lot of evidence of players taking over the market from the whales. Now, I don't think the whales care. The whales are here to make some money.
Actually, it's advantageous for them for this to happen.
100%. That heart, the odds of it being worth way more in 5 years has skyrocketed in the last 3 months, even though prices are obviously way down. Because I have said this from the very beginning. All that matters is, are we playing this game in the store in 5 years? If the answer is Louis can avoid my store and never come visit me, but I still carry Flesh and Blood in my store in 5 years, and I have people coming to play my game, again, not Louis, that is great. And these cards were underpriced at their height 3 months ago, and they're even more underpriced now. If people are playing this game in 5 years, nothing else matters.
And the more people that are playing the game now means that the higher percentage that we're playing the game in 5 years.
Absolutely. This is this idea that players are leaving.
That's ridiculous.
Nothing.
That's a ridiculous statement.
It's
if they are leaving, it's
fantasy of theirs. It's stupid. It's crazy.
I think this is the big thing too. Flesh and Blood never, I'm going to use the word never, behave like a traditional TCG in terms of prices, right? You would release a set, it would open, and instead of it going down 30, 40% in 2-3 weeks a month, it went up. Now, Crew was an exception, but when it went out of print, it went up. And
it was like a weird exception because you had this mysterious second and third wave that somewhat materialized, somewhat didn't.
Part of that was just influences, but Alpha, Arc, Monarch even. Monarch was the first set that followed a traditional curve with TCGs.
And I also I will be very clear here. I think we're in for a brutal summer for prices. If Modern Horizons 2 not flying was,
I'm debating picking some up and just opening it and having no idea what I pull. I've never opened a box of Magic and I just want to do it for kicks and giggles.
That was all the evidence I need that this is going to be a pretty rough summer for non-traditional assets, is how I'll phrase it.
Chilling Reigns did the same thing.
Chilling Reigns fell off a cliff.
This is,
and it was like super hyped up.
What you guys are saying though is so good for Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, right, because Flesh and Blood's not doing that.
Well, I think at the end of the day, when a Magic set doesn't sell well, it's connected to the player base not wanting to play it. Correct me if I'm wrong. But
so I think that's right. I mean, like for me, like this is when I almost made you edit me, Louie. I want you to know I caught myself though. Take some notes, Nick.
People don't even have any clue how bad it's been, do they?
I think it's reasonable for a store to think, not saying I think this, I'm saying I think it's reasonable for a store to believe if I can get as many collector boosters as I want, I can get as many set boosters as I want, but I can't get as many draft boosters as I want. It tells me they don't care if people are playing the game. They care that they're buying boxes. I'm not saying I think that again. I'm saying a reasonable store owner could come to that conclusion.
You're not a reasonable store owner. You're completely...
The only box a store can't get is the one
that's meant for players
who reasonably play the game. I don't know how the conclusion can't be. I want you to buy shiny cardboard and not play the game.
Right.
And that's fine.
So Pokemon?
I will give now I picked on LSS in the first half. I hope James White listens to the second half, so he loves me still and just hates Louie.
Mike's here.
LSS.
Mike is probably here, actually.
Mike's here.
Mike's definitely here. Mike's the best. We'll talk about, I'm going to go to my MetaZoo rant in a minute. I'm not going to go.
All right, can't do it.
LSS cares about the players.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's very fair to say that LSS looks at their boxes and goes, can I draft it? Is it good and constructed? Does it help the other sets? Yes. They care that the formats that they've created are supported in the boxes they sell.
And they are really, really good at that.
Really good. Yeah.
They're really good at that.
Drafting and playing sealed Flesh and Blood is a much, much better experience than I've ever had playing any draft or sealed in any other collectible card game.
I'm not saying who's better or worse because I'm not trying to make my distributors hate me.
I don't care.
But I will say, I think that
we're not big enough for it to matter.
That's right. I will say, like, I think there is a reason that I went all in on Flesh and Blood so quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with cold foils. It had nothing to do with a heart being rare.
Mm-hmm.
It had everything to do with you could tell immediately how much LSS cared about what was in that box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that is something that they deserve a lot of credit for. And frankly, a reasonable person could say WotC needs to be held accountable for.
Yep.
Yeah.
If they won't give you draft boosters, that's all you need to know about how they think you should play the game.
Right. Or not play the game.
I think one of the things that in collectible world that I think happens often is when you get so attached to a game like Magic the Gathering or Flesh and Blood or whatever, and then like you retract a little bit and you don't get to play as much, you inevitably end up buying more things. And I think in the pandemic, one of the things that happened is that people started getting into this attitude of, well, I can't play Magic the Gathering, or, they've banned 15,000 cards from Magic the Gathering, so I don't want to play. So instead, I'm going to buy more. I'm going to just buy more because that's how I interact with this hobby. And then I think what happens here is now if you catch those people, those Magic the Gathering players, which I think Flesh and Blood is doing really well, who say, okay, I had a bad experience playing Magic the Gathering, and now all of a sudden there's another game. My cards in Magic the Gathering are kind of not whatever, and so I'm going to transition to trying to play. I think that's happening a lot. I see a lot of people trading collections of Magic the Gathering for Flesh and Blood.
Yep.
Until last week, I didn't see very many people doing the opposite.
Like the inverse.
And again,
it's just a handful of people.
Two people in our community, it stands out. But it is what it is. There's a lot of people moving into it. And so I think one of the things here is understanding that player base is going nuts right now.
Yeah.
And like, if you are a collector or investor, I'm actually, somebody was on my stream last night that said, "Hey, Louis, I got into this game to do nothing other than to invest. That's why I started watching your channel, because the market updates. But recently I've started playing, and I sold some cold foils to buy unlimited." And I said, send me your story, because like that's the story of a lot of people. I really believe this. Like that's the story of a lot of people.
And Saint, those are the people. Like Saint's a good example of this. Saint started off buying cases of alpha. Now he plays the game.
Yeah.
Also, those are the individuals trading first edition boxes of Monarch for a skull cap.
Yeah.
That's the guy.
Have we actually seen people doing that, or are we just doing a valuation thing?
You haven't seen people do that, but I mean, I think. But listen, you could do it. You could sell one and buy
foil for unlimited.
For sure.
I've had loads of people say, "Hey, Mitch, can I trade you first edition singles for unlimited product?"
I love it.
And I mean, it's the bottom line is, and what they said,
it's great if you're investing and playing.
They said, "I'm not interested in. I'm interested in playing the game. Cold foils are cool, but they're not like those are not the cards I need." Right. And I know these have value, so I can use these to get the cards that I want. You also see trading posts of, I have these first edition singles. These are the other singles I want. And so a lot of trading going on right now. And I would argue that a lot of people wanting to trade is signifying that, hey, I'm a player and I'm wanting to play the game, but I need to get the cards that I have and I don't have the cash flow to do it. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I want to give this 10 more minutes. Okay. Two questions I want to discuss in 10 minutes, two big ones. What, from a player perspective, do we want prices to be as low as possible for players? Let's just do that one, because I'm going to start off. I was a player of Magic the Gathering. I was not as big of a collector or investor in Magic the Gathering, although I did like sealed product. But one of the things, even as a player, I always wanted to be able to sell my cards when I needed a new deck for around the same value as I bought the cards.
Right.
And I think that's really important. And I think kind of tying this back to the map question, as a player, and Mitch, I know you play often your LGS or whatever, and you're also a single store, so you're biased, but like take off your single store hat and just think as a player, like, and George, when you play the game,
we'll get here one of these days.
Do you really want, this may be a question for the comment section too, like, do you really want your card value to hit this bottom price? I don't think a $300 skull cap is a great feel, but let's pretend like a skull cap's $150, your tunic's $200, you buy a tunic at $200
consistently. That
you really want it to go down to $100. I know we say that we want it to be more accessible to players, but like I think like, I don't know. I personally think like we need to respect the idea that like once you buy in, you don't want your cards to go down too. So
George, we were talking about this with fetch lands this weekend, right? Which again, guys, never played Magic the Gathering, especially not modern. Yeah, no, sorry. I'm the George of Magic. Except I never sell it. So
not like George.
Fetch lands, no, not like George at all.
So this was a complete waste of 10 seconds.
This is great. You guys are killing it.
Welcome to
I can carry this podcast on death's door.
All I needed to hear is you're doing great, Mitch. Thank you, George. Right. So fetch lands though used to be extremely valuable, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then they introduced more variations of it or introduce them in different sets.
The second they can see $1 waving in front of a store, if you wave $1 out in front of your LGS, this guy named Wizard comes over, grabs $1 and leaves you fetches all over the doorstep. It's like this. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. It's the fetch land wizard.
So it's a balance, right? So let's talk about it. Let's just talk about the tunic, because the skull cap is not really the case. Tunic is in alpha as a cold foil. It's in WTR Unlimited, and it's in Crucible of War.
Yeah.
I think it is most beneficial if map is consistent, if product supply is consistent, right? Because supply and demand come into factor, map pricing comes into factor in terms of adding EV. If those things are consistent, that card should consistently be within the 1 to 150 range would be the goal, right?
All right.
And it just has like a consistent price. The Crucible version, though, is non-foil. It, by default, in the unlimited variant, should be lower value.
Sure.
Because of lack of foiling. I always called it the budget tunic, right? and that should be 100 or below. But it should be within like a reasonable window. I don't think that as players, it is beneficial for us. This is my understanding of the Pokemon market. Prices are stonks day zero, right? Like if you get on like ground floor, and then they're $1 by the end of the week.
Because nobody plays.
Right?
Yep.
Well, that's actually the driving factor. So if that card continues to be played, if there's a consistent demand for it, the price should consistently stay there. If product supply is consistent, and if pricing stays consistent for boxes.
So Pokemon's very weird because things release at $1 trillion. They go down pretty low, and then they do okay. They're they go down 50%, whatever it is. And then Pokemon releases a huge second wave, and then the cards are free.
And then it's just obliterated.
These poor souls that bought like the latest Charizard for $1,000 are now like $300 on eBay, maybe less.
Right.
I mean, like they get obliterated. I will put on. I know Louis is good friends with the professor of Clarion in college. I will put on my professor hat. I want these cards to be dirt cheap, and I don't care if you lose money on unlimited cards. I want everybody who wants a Tunic to have 50 of them. I want every unlimited card to be worth at most $25, $30. I want the barrier of entry for Flesh and Blood to be very, very low. Now, like this is a bias of mine. Now, this is absolutely. I'm not saying this is something I think reasonable people can disagree on. Frankly,
yeah.
But I think for my preference, I would like them to drastically increase the number of legendaries, especially the number of good legendaries in every unlimited box. I want every box of unlimited to have a legendary. That's just my preference.
Do you think that helps?
I disagree with you. I understand. I understand where you're coming from. I understand where you're coming from. You want a new player to be able to hop in. I'm not. No. You want a new player to be able to hop in and have value. I think I like the way that Mitch is talking a little bit better in that. Let's make sure a Tunic is always available for cheap. I think a crew Tunic is crew Tunic. Let's hope that it's
85.
$50. Let's hope that it's 50. It won't be.
I would be totally fine with that. Actually,
let's hope that
it's not going to be that.
Stepping back, I hope that they continue to reprint those cards in things.
Yeah.
George, I love you to death. I don't think that you can say what you just said and also say that you want boxes to be at $80 from a store.
I think that's only true if you only view boxes as the sum of their singles.
Yeah, but I think
that's how players view it, though.
That is how. Yes, it is. 100% is. 100%
genuinely is.
I do not open boxes. Actually, I did not open boxes of Magic the Gathering after release ever. Never opened them. Never bought them.
But stores still sold a ton of Magic the Gathering boxes.
Why are they selling a ton of them in your mind?
Oh, because people like to open boxes. There's called a gambler's premium.
But there's not a gambler's premium if all the cards are not worth something.
There's no Magic the Gathering. I mean, let's use
the box is worth some of its parts.
But let's use Hydroid Crasis from Ravnica Allegiance. You're saying that you want Hydroid Crasis to be a $4 card to lower the barrier of entry? Because when I was playing Standard, that was a $50 card.
Louis,
and that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That was a $50 card that was a barrier entry to that deck. The point being that you don't need a Tunic to play Flesh and Blood. You can play Flesh and Blood. You can enter the game. You don't need a Tunic. And again, I'm biased because I
absolutely do not need a Tunic.
Yeah. I had a conversation the other day with what's better, Blood Drop Brocade in this deck or Tunic. I said, well, if you want to play an aggro build, go with Blood Drop Brocade.
Blood Drop.
Just play the deck different. Now, what I love, and this is why this is my bias, and I respect that you have a bias too, George. But my bias is that when I was a player, I loved the idea that I can sell this card to go into another deck, to go into, to fund another part of the hobby. And that's something I'm really passionate about. That's why I do that's why I do the market updates, because I want people to know the value of their cards so that they can fund their own hobby. And so I really think that, like, if you crash the value of an unlimited Tunic to $40, that's going to prevent people from wanting to buy cards when they are high. I don't know. I don't.
It's gonna. So here's my natural inclination. Let's say tunic was $50, rainbow foil tunic from WTR Unlimited. All right. For me personally, there's no incentive for me to open a box right now, because if a tunic is 50, and I'm talking as a single store. All right. So from the economics of it, there's no incentive for me to open whatever box I pay from distribution. I caught myself there. It doesn't make sense to me. Right. I know.
And even more, it doesn't make sense. I mean,
and even to a player.
Just stop talking as a store, because as a player, it doesn't make sense anymore.
Let's even say you buy a box below map, right? You open a box below map, and the highest value card in there is $20.
There is no gambler's premium. There's no gambler's premium.
There is no gambler's premium because. And
all right, hold on.
There's no premium. So
Jordan, if the box costs $100 and the highest value card you can get is $30, there's no gambler's premium.
What's the EV on a box of Welcome to Wraith Alpha right now? Roughly
100.
Okay, but you okay, let's do this. 100. You want to do this? The box of no, he's saying Alpha. I get where you're going. Welcome to Wraith.
Alpha?
Welcome to Wraith.
That's
Alpha.
completely irrelevant.
No, it's not. I get where he's saying. I understand exactly what he's going to say, and he's wrong in what he's saying.
Because nobody opens Alpha.
Yes, I do. I know what he's going to say. The EV currently of a box of Alpha last week was 3,300 if you're including the heart. Great. It was 1,400 if you're not including the heart and the legendaries.
Great. So what about a box of Arcane? First edition.
This is not relevant to players, for the record.
Yeah.
So Louis, I would like to buy your Arcane boxes at the price of the EV. I'll even include the eye. I'm a nice guy, Louis. I'm a good guy. I know you're a good guy. And you know what, Louis? Because of our deep friendship, I'm going to add $200 on top of it.
Okay. Box of first edition is $2,000. One box average is 1,000. Here's
so Louis,
the point.
I would like to buy your boxes at $2,200 each.
No, you're not arguing for unlimited.
This is
right
not
now,
the point.
This is not the point. You're talking like a whale instead of like a player.
Sell that box to me is because you know that the cost of what's in that box does not determine the price of that box. I do not remember the last.
How much is a heart? How much is a heart?
30,000, 25,000.
How much is a heart for players in your ideal world?
Wait, unlimited or alpha?
Unlimited. I have my point here. How much is a heart for players? Okay, but it's 300, 400 now, so that's not relevant. How much is it for players in your ideal world?
I think that's about right.
Okay, how much is a tunic? Okay, it's
like,
how much is a tunic? Tunic is the second best card. How much is a tunic?
I don't care about the collectors for unlimited.
That's fine. There are no collectors for unlimited.
Nobody is arguing that.
Yeah. Nobody is unlimited.
Nobody is arguing that we care about the collectors.
Maybe y'all are sick and I'm the only healthy one.
What we're arguing is for players. We're arguing for players.
I'm saying for players. Okay. What would be your ideal price for collectors and for players for a tunic and unlimited?
I think an unlimited tunic needs to be less than $50.
Okay.
Maybe less than $70.
Hear me this. There is one card that is worth more than a case. That's it. So you're telling me the entire more than a case, because 300 is the cost of a case if it's at map pricing.
Oh.
Okay, back up.
So if I open one box, there's a chance of 1 in 40, whatever the pull rate is, 1 in 30, whatever is in unlimited, of me getting a $300 card. The rest of it is meaningless to me. It is Charizard or bust.
I don't remember the last box of Pokemon or Magic to release with a positive EV 2 weeks after the set, yet somehow they still sell. Yet somehow we still sell them.
George, nobody is saying we want a positive EV. That's not what I'm saying.
That's what you're saying.
I'm not saying that either.
I'm
saying that the valuable card.
I want a gambler's premium. I want to be able to open a box and get more value out of one card than the box costs. If a box costs $70 from a store, let's say it's from whatever, and it's $60 from a store, and the highest value card other than the heart that I can get is $50. I'm just going to go buy a tunic. Right. I'm just going to buy every single.
But you're getting more than one card in a box, right? Like my boxes aren't defective when they have 300 cards in them, 200 cards in them.
If a tunic is $50, there's not a card in the set.
That means every Majestic is $1 to $2.
Every
Super is 25, 50 cents.
Clear out the earwax, apparently.
I have earbuds in, actually. So
every box of unlimited, in my view, should have a legendary in it. This would not affect the price of Majestics then. You could still get an E-Strike. You could still get a, whatever. You could still get a, CNC, War. You can get all those other ones. Those are still worth some money. But in my view, if you want to lower the price of legendaries, especially the good legendaries, which I think is important, you need to include more of them. It is that simple. It's a supply and demand problem.
I think at the end of the day, though, there's going to be too many tunics and too many legendaries in the market for anybody to even desire opening a box. Why would I even open a box if I can just buy all these cards firsthand?
The best part about this podcast, the absolute best part of this podcast, is that the comment section below can tell us what they want. I'm
so forward to it.
And George won't read it.
Read the comment. I am nowhere near dumb enough to read the comments.
Oh, you're missing out. That's the best part of this
comment that Louis sends to me. I love you all, everybody but Louis, but I will never read the comments of anything I've ever been on, ever. Yeah.
Okay, that's let me and Mitch know then in the comments if you
George ain't reading
what you think. All right, let's get to the MetaZoo minute there, George.
I need a minute here. I need to go on a MetaZoo rant here.
Okay.
I got into it with two knuckleheads in Discord this week. Not smart of me. No matter what I said, it somehow to them proved that MetaZoo sucked and was only in it for the money. And I will tell you what caused me to finally break and kind of go on to, warrior mode of the internet. They said, all you need to know because I haven't designed the second set yet for MetaZoo. Mike is doing nothing but a money grab. And I said, my understanding that he is already working on the second set. And they said, doesn't that prove everything you need to know? He hasn't even released the first set yet, and he's already designing the second. He's just in it for the dollars.
The opposite of what they said the first time.
And I'm like, what do you guys want this poor guy to do? No matter what he does, you idiots are going to say he's only in it for $1. I do not care if you look at the artwork and hate it. I really don't. I don't care if you think the game is a joke. I really don't. But I think you guys need to relax and give this guy a shot to design the game he envisioned. I will be the first to admit it's a very different game than Flesh and Blood.
100%.
10,000%.
It is nothing to do with Flesh and Blood. It's different mechanics. It's different everything. Different feel. Different everything. If he wanted to design a game to compete against Flesh and Blood, he failed. I don't think he did that. I don't think he said, I need to compete with Magic and Flesh and Blood. He wanted to do something drastically different. None of you idiots have played the game yet. So
including the two idiots you're on a podcast with.
Wait for first edition. Play the game.
This weekend, though.
Yeah, tomorrow, the podcast is going to be released Friday. Mitch and I are playing on Saturday without
Saturday night. We're playing on Saturday night because you're right.
You're right. Everyone agrees with you. Everyone agrees with you.
Discord, I was right.
We will play. But you have to understand, the three of us have not played MetaZoo. We are playing MetaZoo. Well, two of the three of us are. So please join us, George. I would love to teach you.
Deck. Mike, give me a deck so I can play against these knuckleheads.
Hey, George, how many decks do you have?
None.
What do you don't have any MetaZoo
I have
products?
no decks. I have no decks. I have boxes.
Just crack open one of your boosters. It'll be fine.
You don't get enough aura.
You don't get enough auras. There it is, baby. So I agree, man. I think
I'm opening the product this week, and I'm so excited.
I think that people are. I think people misunderstand. Honestly, I think people misunderstand me. I had a couple people reach out. I had somebody reach out to me today and say, "Louis, tell me the truth. Are you joking about MetaZoo? Because it seems like every time you talk about MetaZoo, you're laughing and whatever." And I said, look, the first time I looked at MetaZoo, I didn't like it. I didn't like the artwork, whatever. I opened up some packs and I fell in love with the artwork. Completely.
The nostalgia is awesome, dude.
Look at this Santa Claus.
I can't see it. It's fine. It's a 10 though. That's all that matters. Louis, can we just talk about do you have a massive cat, or is that you have a cat?
What are you talking about?
Do you have a cat? An animal? It just walked by your cracked door there, and that thing hilarious. Is massive. Sorry.
Anyway, backing up. I didn't like
George missed
I didn't like MetaZoo. I did not like MetaZoo in the artwork at the beginning, and it was kind of like a joke, whatever. And then when I opened packs, I fell in love with the game. And like, I think the best part about MetaZoo in my mind, and again, I haven't really played, I've seen some gameplay and I've heard and talked to people who have played, but my favorite part about MetaZoo is it doesn't take itself seriously. And so that's why when I talk about MetaZoo, I don't take it that seriously. Like, it's just fun for me. Like, Flesh and Blood for me is just like really deep. Like, I care about the finances a ton. I care about all this stuff like a ton, like it's my thing, like whatever. I care about the gameplay. I care, like MetaZoo, like I say this again, I just want to play it with my wife. Like, I just want my wife
is meant to be fun and lighthearted.
Yeah. Yep. And it's completely different. Not that Flesh and Blood is not fun. Flesh and Blood is fun in a much more competitive way.
Correct. Well, and there's fun modes like, ultimate, fighter pit or, whatever.
Okay.
Pit fight. But
PvE.
I'm looking forward to MetaZoo. Is it?
I have no clue. I just hope so.
You really hope so. If not, Louis will end up designing it or working.
Yeah, no, I already am working with 2 people to design PvE for Flesh and Blood if they don't announce it by the end of the year. So we'll just do it ourselves.
You're on the clock, James White. You heard it here first. Yeah. I did not make a threat to you.
I already sent them an email and asked them. So
I don't think you're the first one to send them an email, but we don't have to go into that.
Yeah.
That being said, I think ultimately what it comes down to,
is this the MetaZoo minute?
Okay. Here's
I think what it comes down to is MetaZoo is meant to be fun. It's designed to be fun. It is not designed to be ultra competitive. Will there be a competitive scene? Potentially.
I think so.
But that is not the target market. You would argue that maybe it's a kitchen table TCG market.
They got the perfect channel to sponsor then.
Yeah. Speaking of sponsors, if I can get my blur effect not to work.
Yeah, where'd you get that Secret Lab chair? Mine's still an S-Racer chair.
Well, Secret Lab did not send me this, but I thought I would just on good terms just go ahead and invest in a chair and rave about how awesome my buns have been feeling since I purchased it.
My back.
Not to mention this plush pillow.
All right,
this chair is awesome.
Let's go.
Finish it up.
We talked earlier this podcast about what LSS has control over. Maybe some missteps they've made, maybe some missteps they did not make. We know Mike is a big fan of the channel because Mike is awesome and listens to the channel, interacts because Mike's awesome. What do you put
like a timestamp for him just to go right to the minute?
Yeah.
No, he has to suffer through the flesh and blood to get here.
No, there's no suffering. The first half of this podcast. So what do you guys, if we could each give Mike one piece of advice of something LSS has done or not done?
LSS? Or he has not?
LSS has done or not done as they've tried to grow the game. What would that piece of advice be? Man, this was a good one today. I was so proud of myself. I was so proud of myself.
It's like you actually cared about it.
I care about the MetaZoo minute. I will be honest with you guys. Mainly because it makes everybody cranky on Discord.
Yeah. Okay, I'll start. I have one. I've said this. My number one thing is communication. And I think something that Mike is doing good already. But I think something that he's going to have to practice at as the game grows and the more LGSs grow and as some sort of tournament scene grows, and is working on continuing to make his communication as good as it is. It's fantastic right now. I mean, like, I reach out to Mike. I can't reach out. I have no clue how to get in touch with LSS. I've sent them emails. I've not gotten responses for multiple days, 3 weeks now, talking about a skirmish event that is on Saturday. Like that, like I'm not trying to be mean. That's just the fact. I've messaged Mike on Discord and gotten a receipt from him 3 minutes later, almost every time. And like, granted, like, the game is smaller right now, probably.
Right.
Like, I think the community is probably about the same size, honestly, but the game is smaller. I know. But so there's less communication probably. But as he grows, I would say invest in your communication with LGSs, invest in ways like maybe that's having a regional, a regional communication network where, like, if you're on the East Coast, Northeast Coast, you've got this person that's your go-to. They know everything. They can get you the answer within 24 hours. If you're Southwest, you've got your guy that you have a regional like liaison that you can get in touch to answer questions. I've said the same thing, like LSS, like you should have a United States liaison that you're able to communicate with, so you don't have to wait. And I think as Mike grows and as MetaZoo grows overseas, okay, you're going to need a European liaison to communicate with if you're going to be a global company, you need a global liaison to communicate with. And that costs money, and there's not a huge return on that in terms of like monetary ability to see, but in terms of like keeping stores happy, which like, that's what you want, right? Like you want people to be like, feel like they have answers. That's what you need to do. So
the rare good idea from Louis.
Hey, there you go.
Well, I don't want to, I have to follow up with this, and that feels really bad because it's not going to be as good of an idea, but just fact of the matter. Whenever I first came into the game though, one of the biggest things I continually heard was they do a phenomenal job onboarding or supporting LGSs when they first came on, right? You got this huge welcome kit. You got all this stuff. You had play mats. You had a really cool lore book. And people were blown away by the introduction to the game to support their LGS. Now, I think they still do welcome kits. I don't think they're quite as elaborate as they used to be. They're not. Okay.
Yeah, they're nice though. They're good. They're good. They're good stuff.
I didn't get a welcome kit, but you get an armor kit. You get an armor kit.
But I do think armor kits are another thing that we could all agree that they do well with. I've heard a lot of people say their armor kits are really well done, and I think that's something that you can encourage. I don't know what to call them in the sense of MetaZoo, but I just think onboarding LGSs and giving them the resources to succeed with your game is extremely important. If you find the LGS scene as your core market or your strategy to market. I'm not really sure what MetaZoo, as you're kind of, people are adopting this game, they're just now getting LGSs. This is the first time they're getting LGSs into it because they've gone the Kickstarter model to get the game out, to get the name out. I think that something's really interesting is MetaZoo is actually coming onto market with a lot more player knowledge than what Flesh and Blood. Yeah. Flesh and Blood kind of creeped in. There's a lot of hype around MetaZoo and just trying to get our hands on it and just start playing it.
Yeah.
And so I think that'll be really important is the onboarding of LGS is giving them the resources to succeed and have people fall in love with the fun environment of the game, right? What are the things that you can do to support people diving in and actually playing the game and enjoying it? Because I mean, like that's the whole purpose of every game, right? Collectability should not be the core essential model. It should be, I mean, a game's meant to be played. Yeah. So I hope that they can do that well. Mike is coming out with, I know he does lots of communication, lots of traveling. It sounds like he seems really proud of MetaZoo. And it's been really cool to see. I mean, guy comes up with every single amount of product. I mean, guy has pants, shoes, backpacks. Oh, those thighs, Lou, are strong. Yeah, man.
I got on my short shorts. I was rowing this morning. I was gonna go get my backpack.
He's about to roll back and go show you, but he doesn't want to show off the thunder thighs. So
I have a MetaZoo backpack. It's right there.
It's right back there.
It's right there.
So yeah, there you go. So I think that the amount of merchandise around the game is something he's doing well with too. And I thought it was, to be honest, stupid, but now I'm like, this is awesome.
I love it. I have MetaZoo shoes upstairs. I'm not wearing them. I'm not wearing them until the convention. We're going to MegaCon.
So white. You don't want to dirty them up. So
all right, George.
Ahead. Mine's not as good as Louis, but finish it off.
Biggest advice for you would be to make a size 13 shoe in the next front run. I think this is something that's very important to the community. Midgets like Louis get all the sweet drip.
I have a size 12. I'm one shoe size smaller than you.
That would be the midget size. Continue. So like,
no, I'm the midget size apparently. I forget how like you guys are just large men.
I'm a big boy.
Thanks. Yeah, you don't get a body like this by not eating.
No, I eat.
I think you need a size 13
shorter in stature
the next time. But like, here's like my honest advice. I think there's two things that I think Mike's going to work on both of these, to be honest. I think the thing I would continue with is roughly what Louis said is like, and I Louis, it wasn't until you were talking that I actually thought about this. I have communicated more with MetaZoo than I have with LSS. And I've had LSS product for months, for years. Keep that up, Mike. I think that is something that, like, I recognize, and I know for a fact other stores that are carrying your product recognize that, like, if I have an issue, if I, like, you interacted with the last video, you're like, hey, I heard I have a problem.
Sorry,
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Keep that up. Like, I think we all see that you're working your little tail off. You know, maybe not enough to get me size 13 shoes, but like everything else is doing good. And I think like we all recognize that and appreciate that.
And before Mike apologizes for not having size 13 shoes in the comment section.
I hope he does. Like, he should. Like, I need shoes. I need the drip. I'm gonna wear my Yeezys. I'm gonna wear one of my pairs of Yeezys to MegaCon, Mike, and I hope you'll sign it for me. And I promise you I'll wear those with your signature on them. So the only other thing I would say about this, and I think this is kind of roughly what I got out last video with you. I'm gonna sell. I have 3,500 people on a wait list for a first edition box. I had roughly that number for Monarch, maybe a little bit less for Monarch. I had 2,900 people signed up at the end for my bundles, I think. So roughly the same.
Have you had any phone calls? Any phone calls of people winning boxes?
I've gotten some phone calls. Thanks, Mitch. I appreciate that. Where's that mute button? So like,
I got the bleed button somewhere there.
You know, I think recognizing that like the larger stores will need different allocations is something that you're going to have to deal with, frankly.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very blessed. I have a very good store that sells a lot of boxes. The amount of boxes I got will last me roughly 15 seconds, and they're only going to go to people in store who I know.
Right.
And that creates a weird environment when somebody who comes in from Columbia, South Carolina, or Greenville, or Hotlanta wants to come to my store, and they're like, hey, George, like, can I get a box of the zoo? And I'm like, I've been sold out from literally the first second I got it in.
Yeah. I've been in the store for like 3 minutes, and I get a call every day.
Yeah.
And I just got a message from somebody who's 3.5 hours away in West Virginia.
Right.
That was like, hey, can I come down and buy product on release day? It's like, yes, if you're local, I guess, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, man.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, and I think this problem will take care of itself to some degree. I think, like, listen, it won't always be this hot, frankly. Nothing ever will stay as hot as it always is. Sure. But like, like, listen, I think you're gonna sell the first edition in roughly 15 seconds.
And should we clarify? There are 25,000 boxes. I think we said 22,000 last video. Somebody corrected us. 25,000 of first edition. So if you compare that to, if you compare that to Flesh and Blood first edition, because I know what people are always saying is MetaZoo is they're not printing enough products, so they're like, if you compare that to Flesh and Blood, that's almost twice as many first edition alpha. So like, they are not short printing this for a new card game.
No. You know, I think, you know, listen, like, I think 25,000 is great. That's a good first print run. Yeah. I'd start production on the second print run though.
Yeah, for sure. And they did say a couple months after, right? It's coming out soon, a couple months after.
I mean, like, you know, and I'll tell you, like, I'll put in right now for my order of, like, you know, 4,000 boxes. Yeah. And like, you know, and if I got them, I'd sell them.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be a problem.
Yep.
You know, so I think that how you handle size disparities in stores is going to be something you're going to have to work through. But I know this is a problem that you're going to be working through over the next couple months. The thing you can work on immediately, though, is to call your shoe manufacturer and get me a size of 13. I'd prefer 14 so they can do it, but I won't be picky. I appreciate that.
So that 13 is a little tight.
You got some boat feet, dude. What's
Jesus?
All right. That was a good discussion. I think that was really healthy.
Size 13.
Long podcast. I guess our podcasts are an hour and 45 minutes. That's 2 weeks
God bless
in a row.
You guys.
Unless make you bleep out half of it.
If you are still here, you obviously care about the podcast, and make sure you're supporting Mitch at Midtown Merchant and George at Compete Sports, and you know, whatever. If you want to support me, that's great too.
Buy Louis case breaks.
If you we're gonna have MetaZoo box breaks here in a couple whenever product gets here.
I might have to get on one of those. I might be
it's
buying
gonna
some
be great.
slots.
We're gonna do a MetaZoo box at least a month of once a week MetaZoo box breaks.
I'm late to the MetaZoo party. I have no boxes requested. I'm not set up a distribution.
Good thing you're a patron of mine. You can get boxes. Yeah. And then, hey, if you really do like the podcast, there are May the Zoo Be With You t-shirts. There are Kitchen Table TCG t-shirts as well.
I wore mine yesterday.
There are May the Zoo Be With You playmats. George is working on getting those to me so we can actually fulfill the orders.
About 2 weeks away.
There's a bunch of them. A bunch of people are picking those up, and we are going to have some other stuff. I think we're going to do a playmat in the future for some charity support too. So we appreciate you guys listening. Make sure you go, follow Mitch over at youtube.com/Midtown Merchant. It's really important. He's really worried about the number of subscribers he has. Anything else?
I broke 100. I broke 100. Like, I'm 100 in all social platforms right now.
Wow. Any other things to say to close out? Right? What do we say at the end, George?
May the Zoo be with you.
May the Zoo be with you guys.
And also with you.
We will get this right one day, Louie. It won't be today, apparently.
Remember to be kind to the people around you.
And also with you.
Oh, what a great day.
So good.